It's Doodlebud here. We're doing a nib grind video. Now what's different about this one, because I've already done this grind, this will be an oblique grind, is I wasn't planning to do this video, but I have a few videos I wanted to do. I put up a poll on my channel on which ones you wanted me to do first, and turns out the nib grind video got top votes. I wasn't even planning on recording these, but I figured since everyone wanted to see one, I'll do the video anyways. And because there was such a good response, I thought I'll do an extra nib to give away. So I'm doing 3 total. I'm doing one for myself, one for someone else I'm sending for them to test out. I'd like to make a lot of these, so I'm sending them a sample. And the third one is for a lucky viewer. I'll give you details of the draw here in a little bit. If you want to see a little more detail into this grind, I have a whole video. But this is starting before I start with the stub nib. There's a close look there if you're not familiar with stubs, but it's a standard stub nib. This is a Mahjong nib. I think it's about a 1.1 millimeter, and this is after the initial grinding. So just a 500 grit whetstone I use for doing kitchen knives. That's sort of the first grind I do. You can still see some residue on there. I have a fixture that's in the works, partially complete, so I can use my rotary to make this really quick. But I thought I would show with sort of the DIY version with just minimal stuff. So these are just sharpening stones that you can pick them up on Amazon. If you want information, I'll have links down below. This is a 1000 grit stone. I made a little 3D fixture just to keep that 15-degree angle exactly where I want it. And I just break the edges, just a couple strokes on the stone before I head to the polishing pads, the Micromesh pads, to really do all the smoothing. If you're not familiar with obliques, as I showed in the pictures, very much like a stub, how it starts off, but then instead of a flat end, it has an angle cut into it. You can adjust that angle. The standard seems to be about 15 degrees, and that's sort of where I like it. The fixture I'm working on will allow me to dial in any angle I want. Now, in the first grind video, I didn't quite show as much of this stuff, so I figured that's what I would show today. It's just some of the initial smoothing, just getting the corners rounded over to have a pleasurable writing experience. If I were to write with it how it was, it'd be way too crispy. So a lot of the times you can put the pad on the desk and then move the pen around to blend the edges, or you can do it this way. Now, this is typically how I do it. I don't hold it exactly like this, but showing on the camera, you always have to make sacrifices. But this is the general approach, is instead of moving the pen around, you sort of have the pen stationary, and then you just take the pad and get it exactly where you want. I do find I have greater control when I do it this way. What I'm going to do now is put on my magnification glasses. I think they are 6X, somewhere in that neighborhood. So I'm holding it nice and close, looking at it through the glasses as I do my work, trying to get the camera in there. And this turned out not too bad. But all I do is I just continue on. So I started off the first Micromesh pad you saw. I think it's 3200, maybe 3600 grit. Then I go to about a 4000, 6000, 8000, and finally this one here, this is a 12,000. And I just buff it out just to get a final polishing. You're not really removing any material, just some final polishing and smoothing. Again, you can pick these up at different places. Here in the Lower Mainland in the Vancouver area, Lee Valley Tools is a great place, but you can also pick them up on Amazon. I'll have links down below again. And this part here, there's a few different ways to do it. But what I was doing there was sort of a cross stroke and X stroke. And you'll get a little burr in between the tines from all that grinding. And it's a way to, you put a little pressure and then you open up the tines and do those cross strokes, and that sort of gets rid of that inside burr. Sometimes I'll manually lift the tine to do it. But this, I just sort of showing a little quick, easy technique in order to get rid of that burr that's on the inside. Of course, you have to test it. It can look great under magnification. I check everything with my loupe as I go, but then you have to put pen to paper. And so that's what I'm doing here, just trying to find all the different strokes, different writing and printing, seeing if there's any edges. And I found a couple there. So just back to maybe a 6,000 as low as I'll go, maybe, or the 8, somewhere around there. If it's a bit more, I'll do 6,000. And then just finding those little spots when you're writing. Sometimes it'll be a tiny little corner or just a certain transition. I'll try it at different angles because I don't know what people's writing angles are. I can dial it in for myself, but you know, everyone writes a little bit differently. So I'm just trying to get it at a low, a medium, and high angles, right? All these different ways, different rotations, to try to make it as best I can to fit as many handwriting styles as possible. And at this point, I'm pretty happy. I did all three sort of at the same time. No point in me recording the same thing 3 times. Doesn't make any sense, but I do all stones on the 400, all nibs on the 400, step up the stone to the 1000 and continue on. Same with the polishing. So here's the final result. This is where we're at. Just a nice little tying gap, and it's all nice and smooth, writing really, really well. I hope whoever gets this nib will really love it. How to get this pen. First thing, you have to hit subscribe if you haven't done so far. Then simply leave a comment down there. Then come draw day, which will be Wednesday, May 21st. I'll do the draw then. I'm going to use a random comment picker to pick out a comment, and then I will post that. I will tag you as well, say congrats, all these types of things. But what you have to do is check your notifications. In the post, I'll leave instructions on what to do. But if you don't get back to me after 48 hours of making the draw, I will move on and pick another winner. So you got to be a little bit speedy. We don't want it to take too long, but so far, giveaways have been going quite well. What I did, and the whole reason I did this, is I now swapped out the stub nib on my Mahjong V60 to the oblique. And the thing with the oblique, it really is handy for keeping the writing angle. The line variation's the same, really. It's a little bit thinner the way I ground it, so the thin strokes are a little bit thinner now with the oblique. But the writing experience is different. It's very good at locking in a strict angle with your writing. At least it is for me. And I find this is probably the best nib for my writing style. It is my absolute favorite grind. And that's why I want to share this with everybody. It's sort of like if you have a really good recipe and you want to share it with people. If everyone loves your spaghetti or your steak or whatever it is, your special dish. For me, this is my favorite grind. I absolutely love it. So I thought I'd do the extra one up to share with everybody. No sense in me just doing one for myself and loving this pen. Thought I'd share the love. So the pen is all done, but what I thought I'd quickly do is show you how to use it, whether it's this one to the winner of the pen or someone else who is looking at checking out obliques. Let me first quickly show you with a regular pen. This just has a regular fine nib on it, and typically for alignment, you have the slit of the nib. Again, this is how I grip the pen, but it goes up between your 2 fingers, and some people hold the pen straight up and down vertically. I hold mine at a little bit of an angle, but that is the orientation. It's essentially the top of the nib is flat. However, with an oblique, it's a little bit different. Because we have that angle cut on the nib, you don't hold it so it's straight up. You rotate it back, and you get it to the point, if you can sort of see. It's very small what we're doing to the nib, but you essentially now have it so that angle is going to be at the angle of the page, right? So you rotate it in such a way, if I was here, the contact point isn't quite right. You rotate it back now as it touches the page, the full end of the pen is in contact, versus if you don't rotate it properly, you're just getting one of the corners. It'll still write, but it's not quite in the proper spot. And the thing with obliques, I find, because you have to get the pen, the nib, in the right sweet spot, it helps keep essentially this angle to your writing. It really helps promote that. I'll quickly compare it with my Parker 25. I'll write the same word. And this is okay writing, nothing crazy, but the angles are a little bit different. Maybe I'll try a little bit harder. I hope it's not that bad as normal. But even if I go nice and slow, I pretty much get the angles matched up, but it's off a little bit. When you throw down the oblique, because you have to have it in just the exact position, but once you get it, it really does make a difference. It forces you to keep everything on the same angle, and that's how it works with your writing. Now, one thing, when you go cross strokes, because you have it at an angle, you get a thicker cross stroke and a thinner downstroke. Depending on your writing angle, it's usually tilted, something like this. So if you go to cross certain letters, depending which way you do it, you can either come back after, go flat, and have a thin cross, or keep the same angle you have and it'll be thicker. But just be aware of that when you're using an oblique. A question that will come up in the comments, so I'll address it right now. There's a few different types of obliques, but I'm talking about to this type of grind. There's 2 different styles, and you want to know, well, which one do you use? So if you are a right-handed writer like I am, this is a left oblique. And a left oblique, like so, is for someone who's right-handed, and obviously the other one is a right oblique. That's what you want if you're left-handed. And with that, we are done. Good luck to everybody who enters. I hope whoever wins the pen really does enjoy it. A couple questions are going to come up. What ink am I using? The label fell off. This is just a big bottle of Jinhao Blue. The ink I had in this pen, the Mahjong V60, as far as I know, is Graf von Faber-Castell Stone Gray. I appreciate you watching. Good luck, and yeah, stay tuned for the draw. Leave your comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Can't wait to give this one away. One thing I will ask is to the winner, when you get the pen, and after you use it for a bit, give it a couple weeks, but come back to this video, leave your comment, tell us what you like, what you don't like, whatever it is, whether it's good or bad, I don't care. Leave a comment, I'll pin it. And then others down the road can read it and learn a little bit about your experience. So that is one thing I want to ask in return. Leave your comment, your feedback to the winner. Anyways, we'll leave it there. Catch you next time.